Welcome everyone to the PopCult channel with your host Tommy, that's me, and Tyler. Hi Tyler.
Hello.
Tyler has been very sick. So sick that we had to postpone this recording, so I guess the review will get out a little bit later than usual. Do you think that watching The Last of Us final episode was at least in parts responsible for your immune system shutting down?
Yeah, I think I'm sick of this show, dog.
Well, I mean, good thing it's over then.
I mean, they did happen at a similar time, so I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah, fair. Alright, hope you're gonna be back at full health ASAP, because we have a lot to record, and you know what might make you feel better and make everyone listening feel better too? Leaving a like, share and join our little cult. I hear it's a panacea for all kinds of problems, including, most importantly, our luck in subscribers, so let's try that. Anyway, as I just mentioned, we're gonna be discussing The Last of Us, specifically the last two episodes of the second season. And episode 6, because you are sick. Yeah, that was intentional. It wasn't a blunder on my part.
You thought this episode was sick, yeah?
Yeah.
That's your review.
Episode 6 and episode 7. Okay, enough of this. Let's get straight into it. Also leave a like. Alright, The Last of Us, episode 6 and 7. I have many thoughts, yes. But before diving into the nitty-gritty of these final episodes of the show, Tyler, what's your overall opinion on the second season, now that we have the full picture of what they were going for, and what they were planning to do now with season 3?
Oh yeah, I think now we've got it in its entirety. I think I can say it's not very good at all. I'd say it's actually below average, and it's clearly being reflected. I don't know whether you saw, but there was some reports on the viewing figures for the show, and the season finale for season 2 had dropped by over half its viewership. And I think that was just in the States. 50% of the audience has stopped watching, and I think that's maybe over time throughout season 2, the audience has been chipped away, and now, come season 3, it's going to be almost an irrelevant show with the amount of people that will be watching it, I think. And they only have themselves to blame. It's the second season has been so poor. It's been poorly written, it's poorly structured, and you can say maybe that's because it's based off a poorly written and poorly structured game, but have not enjoyed watching this. There's been a couple little moments here and there that I've liked. The last two episodes, episode 6 was one of the better ones of the season, but then the episode finale was probably the worst episode of the season for me. I think this is the worst episode of The Last of Us, potentially.
Yeah, agreed. I feel similarly, and I'm sure we'll get into the better elements of these two episodes and the season as a whole, but I agree that it was disappointing and it was a wasted opportunity to improve on a story that had its problems but also had meaning, and they were trying to do something, and I feel like the changes that they made to the source material were for the worst. It's strange to think that at least I am using the second game as positive in comparing it to the show, so we'll get into all of that. But before that, I just want to say I have been watching this show with my girlfriend, and I think you were also watching it with a buddy of yours who wasn't as versed in the games too.
My mate who I was watching it with doesn't know the games at all, other than seeing little clips on Instagram.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was the case for you as well, but like it has been a very revealing experience to watch it with someone who doesn't know anything about the game, because I came into the show with like encyclopedic knowledge of the source material, and like I played both games multiple times, poured over the lore. I am very confused by very specific choices in how they decided to change the story and how they decided to portray certain events. She, on the other hand, has no previous knowledge of the game. She enjoyed season 1 and that's it. She is confused for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that show is targeted more towards people who do not know the story of the game. And that's why probably I didn't enjoy it as much. It's just confusing and that's it. Like in both in plot progression and who the story decides to focus on episode by episode. So yeah, I'd say the show has failed in delivering the same level of quality as season 1. And that is partially to blame, as you mentioned, on the source material not being as strong as that first game. But also generally there's pacing issues and some odd decisions that were also in season 1 but are here really exacerbated, and you really feel the story drag and then rush and then drag again. So yeah, not a fan. We'll get to some of the better elements and scenes. I don't want to be like a negative just for negativity's sake, but overall it was a very poor season of television.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, this being said, let's look at this a little bit closer. It's not going to be a play-by-play, but, we'll try to cover most of what happens in these 2 episodes that are very different from one another and contain, like, some of the very best and some of the very worst The Last of Us as a whole has to offer. So, episode 6...
Yeah.
They've used a couple of sequences from the game, and they made up some other ones. And, like...
The flashback with Joel's dad, that's original, isn't it, to the series?
Yeah, Tony Dalton wasn't in the game, unfortunately. Would have made it better, for sure.
Who's that actor? What else has he been in?
He was one of the main villains in Better Call Saul.
Okay.
And he's amazing in that show. Well, everything about that show is amazing. But yeah, completely wasted here in a small little cameo.
His performance is very good.
We'll get to it. The scene is fine, but come on, give me some more.
Yeah, I initially thought he was, Stephen Ogg?
No.
Trevor from GTA.
Oh yeah, does look like him, doesn't he?
I was like, oh shit, Trevor's Joel's dad. But no, it wasn't. And I thought, like I said, we'll get into the scene, but I thought it was one of I didn't like the scene and what was going down, but I thought his performance was good. And it was good casting for Joel's dad.
Oh, the casting is amazing. It's perfect. But, so, okay, yeah. Well, the episode starts off way back in the past. We are in 1983, I believe. And we have a young Joel having a conversation with his father, who's played by Tony Dalton, as we said, from Better Call Saul fame, and he's amazing. And I think it's a shame because I don't think we'll ever see him again, So it's a little treat for us, Better Call Saul fans, I guess. And it's a good scene. It's a decent scene. Kind of like links back to Joel's relationship with Ellie and something that he tells her at the end of the episode. The I hope you'll do better with your own kids sort of line. And I always like these cold opens that they do. And I think this was another good one. But by the end of it, they're like, well...
Yeah, I think... It's an example of when the show actually has like the structure of a TV series to it. We had it earlier on in the season where we had the cold open with Isaac and not Isaac, it was the 2 WLF ladies talking about how she had lost her son in that basement, and we got
one of the better scenes in the whole season.
It's the rare times when this show is a show and it's not just compiling of scenes to get randomly assembled together.
And it's 2 characters that we do not remember the name of, and then we never see, like, we see briefly the lady in another scene in the last episode, but like they're not major players, and that's one of the better scenes. So
exactly, and I'll get more into that when we go on to episode 8. But we get like 4 scenes sprinkled in with these people, like Isaac and these other characters, and it fucking means nothing. And then people are gonna have to wait another 2 years to find out where that story's bothering going. It's so poorly written as a TV series. There's no closure or arc.
Man, so I know you're sick and weak right now, so I'm telling you in advance, get ready for a big rant that I'm going to go on at the end of this, because I am so mad at some of the stuff that they've decided to show and why they show it. It's like, man, it's just... Anyway, let's progress and through this episode and try to be as orderly as we can be. So as we said, the episode starts in 1983, and it's a series of flashbacks. The first one is with Joel's father, and then we move on in time. We show Ellie and Joel's relationship kind of develop through the years. Some might say kind of speed running through the relationship, and ending up all the way back to the present time of the show.
Also so obvious that Joel's dad was going to be bad dad who beats him. I just knew as soon as we were getting that flashback. I turned to my mate and I was like, I bet he's going to be an abusive father and a piece of shit. It's like, oh, here we go. Just, I don't know. It's so predictable. What?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the way they framed it and like the shadow and how, scared of him it was clear who he was. And it makes sense for a character like Joel to have had a father like him. So
he needs a father who beats him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, yeah, maybe like the show's version of Joel is so soft and nice that like maybe that's not the case. Yeah.
I had this written down as one of my notes for the end of the episode, but I suppose it comes into this bit too. It's also, the show doesn't realize, but it's sending us a mixed message here. It's, Tommy and Joel, they're great people, it seems like. For the most part, they're very good men, and they've clearly been well raised by a father who beats them. Whereas you have Ellie, who's been raised by Joel in a bit of a softer manner, who's an insufferable bitch who doesn't listen to anything anybody tells her. So I think the message that Craig Mazin's trying to portray here is beat your kids.
Beat your kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some truth and wisdom in that, I'm sure.
And Joel's, I'll just do a little bit better. It's like, well, no, you did worse than your father and he fucking beat the shit out of you, so.
Okay, so going back to the flashbacks, as we said, like the present, just to set the stage a little bit, the present tense of the show is Ellie has just killed Nora and she's now going back to the theater. And we get a little snippet of this flashback sequence in the ending of the previous episodes where, she wakes up and it's like a dream sequence and she's like, oh, hello, Joel, my father figure, how beautiful you are in this sunlight. And he's like, oh, hey, kiddo. And yeah, so, it's a flashback episode. It's a classic flashback episode before the big ending that we always get with these streaming shows, with these 6 to 7 episodes and like mini series that they do in the streaming age. And it's again like, I like these episodes for the most part because there's some very good stuff in here and some very good character moments that are straight from the game, by the way. But yeah, it's so predictable that they do the flashback episode at the end of the show like this. And I don't know if that's something worth complaining about, but we're gonna complain about so many things. I'm gonna throw it in there just in case.
I feel like that's fair because it's structured in a non-linear way on purpose to try and evoke a certain response from you. But I just feel like the flashbacks in themselves are fine. They're better than what the story's doing in its present story.
And it was the case in the game too, by the way.
Yeah. But they don't work for me because I know where the relationship ends up and I know how sour it gets and I know how horrible she is to him later on. So I just don't care that they're all lovey-dovey back then. It doesn't affect me in the same way.
Yeah, and there's another reason why I think the flashbacks do not hit as hard as well as the showrunners probably hope for, and I will get to that later. But first, so flashback 2. We are progressing through the episode, and this is Ellie's 16th birthday. And Seth is back. Our favorite character, Seth, is back one last time to bring us the biggest laugh of the episode with the horrible cake he makes.
Once again, can I say anything more about Seth? He's just a fucking hero. The man bakes great-looking cakes. He's got the best sniper rifle in town. He cares about everybody.
And we learn more about him. He was a cop, so he cared about his fellow man. And it's a good scene. It's a little scene that we get with Seth.
I don't know whether by them trying to establish that Joel and Seth are kind of close, is that the show trying to tell us that Joel is, he's a piece of shit because he's friends with that goddamn homophobe Seth.
Maybe they didn't think of it. So yeah, something that really sticks out to me in trying to review the show and trying to, figure out what works and what doesn't. I think as soon as Pedro Pascal is on screen, the show becomes good again. And I'm not saying this as something against Ellie or Bella Ramsey as an actor. It's just like Joel Joel is such an interesting character to me in both the game and the show.
Yeah.
And it was the emotional linchpin of the story. It was our POV character, it was very important, and his absence is really felt. And I get that's kind of the point, that he's gone and they have to move on somehow. But yeah, what I'm saying is that I guess I'm happy to see him again.
I agree with you in the sense that when he's in it, the show's better. I don't think the show is good. I just think he elevates the material because he's a better actor than what we have elsewhere, and he is delivering these lines which, maybe they're not great or you don't like what they're trying to say, but he's just a good actor, so it's more believable when he's on screen. And
it's just really sweet. He's trying to adjust to this adoptive father role he has with Ellie, and Ellie herself is more palatable here. We get some season 1 Ellie. She's a little bit more charming.
She's more palatable when she's playing a younger version of the character.
Because
it
it's
just
more
makes
believable.
More sense visually.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It makes more sense visually. It makes more sense that she would still be really petulant and bratty.
Exactly. But she's still fun and funny. It works better when we are in that time of, around the time of season 1.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's when your story's probably not fucking working if the only thing that feels right are the flashbacks.
Yeah. So we move on to flashback number 3, the Science Museum. And this is taken straight from the game. While the other ones that we've seen so far were made for the show, this one is a simplified, shortened, but similar version of what happens in
Oh,
it.
really? So you're telling me there's not a scene where Seth misspells the name on the cake in the game?
No, because Seth is way more cartoony and one note in the game. It's just a guy who says a bad word.
You don't have a quick time event where we're piping icing on Ellie's cake.
I mean, don't give them ideas, man. They're making the third one apparently. So yeah. We have some nice recreations from the game. We have the dinosaur bed, the space room, the Apollo 15, and the scene with the cassette tape. Those are all very well done, in my opinion. They're very touching. I mean, they are as touching as they can be. I felt like I noticed myself smiling through this sequence, so that was worth noting, I guess.
Yeah, it's nice and it's wholesome. I still think the performance is not doing it for me with Bella Ramsey in these scenes, but it's at least the what's being said and the actions between the characters is on point.
Yeah. And, in the game too, as I mentioned before, this is one of the best moments from just a narrative standpoint. You get this flashback, and I don't remember exactly when this flashback is during Ellie's campaign, but it's a nice moment to go back to the core dynamic of the first game. You got Joel and Ellie, they're back, they're doing something nice, and that's a nice break from the horrible things that are happening in the present tense of the story. And I think this scene doesn't work because we haven't seen enough horrible stuff in the present. We've got a hint of that. We had the Ellie murder scene with Nora that I thought was fairly well done, but we are immediately back to this nice, happy Ellie with nice, happy Joel, and I think the impact of the scene itself is slightly diminished because of what surrounds it. So weird decisions in what to include and where to place it, and this is robbing some of these moments of their potential strength and impact.
I think if you didn't know the games and what happens, it's a cool flashback, the way it's constructed, happening upon a abandoned museum and him, going through all this effort to try and find the Apollo launch tape and stuff like that. It's all just really nice, and it's very detailed, and it's unique. And it's probably one of the best scenes of the season. Really. And I think a lot of people said that about the games too. It was the best moment in the whole of the game.
That's what The Last of Us does best, is when it just places you in one of these very mundane. Well, I mean, not that a science museum like that is mundane, but like it puts the characters in places that we are used to see in a certain way and shows you, oh, what if, this museum was overrun with vegetation? It's interesting because, it shows you the aquarium, it shows you the museum, it shows you the bank, the library, all these places that we visit in our lifetime, but you see them as a post-apocalyptic version of them.
Yeah.
And that's inherently interesting, and
it makes you think, it's like, oh yeah, if I was living in the post-apocalypse, it would be quite cool to go to a museum and you could just like pick up the artifacts and shit. It's it's just
and break a glass and get like the actual helmet, like the how do you call it, like from an astronaut suit.
It's cool, it's believable, it's interesting.
Yeah, agreed. All right, moving on. Flashback 4. Teenage drama.
Well, actually, just before you move on, there was another thing that I was thinking when I said it to my mate as well as we were watching, because there's, unfortunately for Bella Ramsey, there's a lot of Buzz Lightyear memes going around about her, and then when I forgot about this, I forgot that she puts on the space helmet in this flashback, and then when she put it on, I was like, fuck man, they're not doing her any favors, are they?
The Toy Story theme kicks in and it's like
yeah, to infinity and beyond.
I was thinking more about this is not flying, it's falling with style, but it's pretty good. Poor Bella Ramsey. They did her dirty with this. But moving on, Flashback 4, we have some teenage drama on our hands here. And we see the origin of the tattoo on her forearm. And we have our first big fight between Joel and Ellie. Trouble in paradise sort of thing. And it was a bit abrupt how we went from, happiness overload to this moment of just like conflict.
Just like in the normal present day storyline. They're just like rushing these moments, and then they're trying to tell us the development of those feelings in these flashbacks, and they're fucking rushing it again. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's adolescence for you. One moment you are fine and you're happy with your parents, and the second,
true,
you are hating everyone. But
she's a moody teenager, and all I can think in these flashbacks is Joel's the fucking best dad she could ever wish for.
Yeah,
and she should stop being so horrible to him, because this guy is a good man, and I think especially in this scene, nothing he says is wrong. He's just being a dad. You shouldn't be doing drugs. You shouldn't be having underage sex. And I feel like Ellie scolds him, which is normal. That would happen, like a teenager saying that to their parents who's trying to control them from doing things. But I feel like also the show feels Joel is wrong to try and parent Ellie in this way too. I don't know, maybe
you think so?
I feel like the show tends to be on Ellie's side with these things, and she gets the last word, and I feel like it's cementing.
Yeah, like he agrees to turn the garage into her own kind of space.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of concedes, and he can concede and still be like, hey, now I'm the dad, I'm laying down the rules, but she's actually like, no, you're not a father, you don't even own this house, you piece of trash. And it's like, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess Ellie wins this one too, even though Joel's probably right.
But on a separate note, I guess, but we mentioned this, I think, in one of our previous reviews. Maybe it actually was our episode 1 review when we get the Seth homophobe moment. I wasn't expecting the show to acknowledge or explore Joel being, let's say, unsupportive of Ellie's sexuality, I guess. With this, oh, wait, that was a girl. What are you talking about? You're not thinking straight. I thought that them bringing some nuance to the character in this way, I wasn't necessarily expecting it. And I felt like they were going for a very black and white approach here. We made fun of Seth being kind of like this very cartoony homophobe guy in that scene, but they did explore both his character, the character of Seth, and Joel in this sense.
Oh yeah, and this was done way better for sure. It's like more subtle. His, I think the first thing he says when he walks in, he's like, and you're fooling around, experimenting or something, and she's like, this isn't an experiment. And it's like he's not being completely unreceptive of what's happening. He's just, maybe
trying to process it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was better done.
I think it's commendable. Like we talked a lot of shit and we continue to talk a lot of shit about this show. But when they do something right, let's acknowledge that. So
yeah, well done, Craig Mazin. The protagonist is a well-rounded character.
I mean, as we said, never take these things for granted. Anyway, do you want to say anything more about this flashback, or should we move on?
No, you can move on.
Okay, so we have flashback 5. This is patrol time for Ellie and Joel. And I'll just say this. I'm going to say something controversial, man. You can hate me all you want. You can throw stones at me. This was good, dare I say. This was a great little 15-minute sequence. And I think some of the best we've had in the show.
Is this also the Eugene scene?
Yeah.
As well. Okay, fair. I do disagree, so we can get into it. But go on, you crack on.
Nice. So I think this scene is not amazing, but it's good. And I think it kind of encapsulates everything that The Last of Us is about. So to set the scene, we've got Joel and Ellie on patrol, which by itself kind of like harkens back to the first season. And I think, Joel himself kind of spells it out by saying, we should do this more often, which is one of those clunky lines that the show loves to use. And I think, it's a nice little sequence. We have the fallen world of The Last of Us. They are in the forest. There's infected. There's hard choices. The game and the show, they're very much about familial bonds and love and what you would do for love to protect the people you care about. And the character of Eugene, who's introduced here, we learned about Eugene previously. We knew that he was going to die. He was the therapist's husband, and he is played by another great actor. The show keeps getting great actors for one scene and then they die. But Joe Pantoliano, I thought, was fantastic.
It's fucking Cypher from The Matrix.
Exactly. Great actor. Amazing. He was in Memento too. He's fantastic. And so basically he has been bitten. They found him during their patrol and he wants to see his wife before he has to be put down, basically. And I think the way he knows he's about to die, but he wants to see his wife again. And it's not for like some noble, I need to tell her something important kind of thing like you often see in movies. It's just that he wants to see her because he's afraid and her presence would comfort him. And Joel takes that away from him because he can't risk it. He can't allow him back into Jackson knowing that something bad could happen. Even if all the signs are there that he can and should lower his guard for a fucking second and let this man have his last moment with his wife, he doesn't do it. And I think this is Joel in a nutshell. And the way he lies to Ellie without skipping a beat, he says, I promise, just like he said, he promised everything he told about the Fireflies and Salt Lake City was true in the ending of season 1. And this is where Ellie snaps because she finally understands what kind of person Joel is and how much a promise counts when it comes from people like him. So honestly, this whole sequence was, I think, very well done. And it links back to the main conflict between Joel and Ellie in an elegant way, linking it back to the themes. He's lying and they're deciding to believe him because it's an easier path than questioning what he might have done to save her. And then, this event kind of like snaps her out of it. And she decides, no, actually, I'm mad at you because you're a piece of shit, because you lied to me. So, well done, but your turn.
See, I mean, I think it's a well acted, and I think all the beats that happen are fine. I just don't like the way how we get there. For me, this is almost like the final nail in the coffin for the assassination of Joel's character, potentially.
Oh, wow.
In the sense that I don't know, I just don't believe he would be that callous, especially with Ellie. I get that he's been set up as he lied about this big thing before, but it was to save her life. I just felt like it was lazy for them to not have any sort of conversation, and he just says, yeah, promise, don't worry, you go off and grab the horses and I'll look after Eugene. I just feel like, how far away were they from the camp? How hard would it have been to just try and take him back as far as possible? You both sit on the horse.
If he snaps you kill him.
Yeah, he walks in front and you kill him as soon as he turns, as soon as he shows a moment. There's so many practical things they could have tried, and like Joel was just right, no, we have to just shoot him on the spot. They could have tried to get a radio so he could have had a chat with his wife before she died, or Joel could have had a more of a saying to Ellie, listen, he's only got half an hour, it's too dangerous to walk him back to camp, what's the point? We won't even make it there that far. Because the scene wants to tell us that they had the chance to get Eugene back and have a final moment with his wife. I feel like that's what the show is telling us was the truth, but Joel didn't even want to try because he's so callous and he's so hardened by the world, and he's like, nope, this guy's infected, he's dead now. He doesn't matter as a human being. But that's not what we see of Joel. Joel cares about the community. He cares about people. He's got friends amongst the community. From the perception we get of him in the show, I didn't believe that decision making, and that he would basically. There's always been this tension around the Fireflies situation. I think he's aware that Ellie doesn't fully trust what happened, and he's willing to risk the relationship with his surrogate daughter over not explaining about this Eugene situation. I thought that was for me, it completely ruined Joel's character.
Okay, fair. This is interesting because this is where the knowledge of the game kind of like informs my understanding of certain scenes a little bit differently, because I feel like the game version of Joel, it would have done this.
Oh, totally. I get
While the version that they've presented here with Joel, with Pedro Pascal, he's softer and more willing to listen and way more human. Well, I mean, Joel in the game is human too, but like, it's a different character.
Yeah.
To be fair, maybe you're right in saying this version would have probably tried to find a different way. So yeah, I get your meaning. I feel like it's still a good scene that shows, actually, no, Joel is so hardened and he's so wary of people and he's so ready to just kill anyone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of his character. And that's why people wanted him dead.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I'm saying the beats work fine. Like, I think you could have this happen as an event, but there just needed to be more conversation and discussion about the practicality of what's happening, because this is a big moment. This is the moment where Ellie and Joel's relationship finally breaks down, and the fact that no effort was made and he was just so happily ready to lie to her face. And what does he think's going to happen afterwards? He's going to turn around, he's going to be dead, and she's just going to believe him that he turned and attacked him. It's I didn't believe it. And also, Eugene pulls a gun on them at the beginning as well, and I feel like that's something that's not very... Ellie just doesn't seem to care. She's like, look at this, he's a great man, even though he just tried to kill us 3 seconds ago. There's lots of details I don't like, but the plot beats could work. I just think it's not enough work has been done in between for it to get there.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think what I was trying to say is the sequence in isolation. Like, if this was like a little short film set in the world of The Last of Us, I would have loved it so much.
Yeah.
But like, in the context of the season, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really work out in terms of character consistency and logic. So yeah, no, I agree with you. It was well done for what it was, as a sequence of like showing a little bit of this snippet of The Last of Us world and other characters, what they do when there's infection. Like, you know, the idea of this choice that one has to make. Do I trust this person that is about to turn into a monster, or do I just pull the trigger because I'm too afraid? So
it's an interesting conflict because both sides are right, especially if we are given the logistics. If we are aware that they're 5 hours ride from Jackson, then it's like, well, okay, well then definitely Eugene has no chance of getting back and he should just be killed. And so Joel is correct in that, and also Ellie's correct in the sense that, oh, you know, he's still alive right now, they could at least try something. So they're both right in a sense, but the conversations between them aren't had at all.
And they could have connected to Ellie wants him to be able to say goodbye because he reminds her of the situation she had with Riley in the first season.
Yeah.
But they don't really do that, and I think that was a wasted opportunity. But I don't know, maybe it's implied. And anyway,
linking to this scene, and I think it happened before, Joel looks at Ellie's tattoo, her new tattoo, and he's like, oh, what is it? It's a moth. What's the obsession with moths, basically, because you draw on loads of moths everywhere. And then we get, hopefully, the last scene ever
of Kevin's mom.
I'm not gonna fucking watch season 3, so this will be my last scene ever with Kevin's mum, the therapist of Jackson. Insufferable character, and every single scene that she has had in the show is almost pointless. You could take it out, and I don't think it really affects the story much. She just steals moments where these conversations could have been had between characters where it was more meaningful. And Oh yeah, her inclusion in the show is terrible, man.
Yeah.
The way her mannerisms and the way she acts, she's she's just like a Californian wine cat lady or something.
Yeah, I think you should remove all the scenes of Catherine O'Hara from the show and edit them together and put like Desperate Housewives music on top. A completely different rom-com movie with
Exactly.
this lady. Agreed. She was good because she's a good actor. She was good in the scene when they bring Joe Pantoliano's body back to Jackson.
I mean,
but yeah, everything else she was in was distractingly bad. Yes.
yeah, she can cry convincingly. I'll give you that. And also, I hate it. It's so cliche, this trope, and you see it a lot in horror films. And she says, Joel's like, hey, what's the meaning of a moth to her in your dreams? And he's like, say, oh, is it something to do with transformation or growing? And she's like, no, that's a butterfly. And she's like, for whack jobs that believe in this kind of stuff, moths in dreams mean this. And then she gives you a very detailed answer of what it is. And then it's going to be the exact truth of what's happening as well.
Yeah.
But she frames it in a way it's like only lunatics believe this stuff, but then gives you the answer and the knowledge behind it. And also it becomes true. So I hate it when they do stuff like that.
And also just leave it implied. Why do you have to spell it out? Just like have a moth.
It's so obvious.
And people who are into that can research it. Oh, why does she like moths? Oh, because it's death and like train. Okay, interesting. Like it's a thematic thing that you put in the show. Like you don't need to bring that much attention to it. I don't think they ever did in the game, and you still have the moth symbol on the guitar and her drawing this character. Like it's just a thing. That's another element.
Subtlety is lost on this show for sure. And it's like when somebody's in a horror film, somebody's house is being haunted by a spirit, and they go to like a professor or a historian or go to some library or whatever and talk to some sort of expert, and they're like, well, hey, ancient cultures believe this crazy thing, but we don't believe this because it's stupid. But the demon, this name, blah blah blah, is gonna come and get you. And it's
then
like,
it happens.
oh yeah, well that's exactly what's happening in the plot then.
If you believe it. Oh man. Moving on. We have the 6th and final flashback of the episode. And here's a big point of difference as well with the game that I'll get to in a second. But anyway, the flashback is we are back to the New Year's Eve barn dance that we saw in the first episode. And we are from Joel's perspective now. And we see Seth doing a homophobia from another angle. And it's still just as bad and just as unnecessary as it was.
Have you ever seen the movie Vantage Point?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's a film with the main guy from Lost, the Doctor Man. I can't remember his fucking name. And it's like there is a terrorist attack, and Forrest Whitaker's in it as well. It's not the worst film. It's trashy, but it's fun. And it's like there's a terrorist attack in America, and then we see it from like 6 different characters' perspectives, and we see it in like short segments. And it's like then we go to somebody else's story, then we go to someone else's story. They should have just done that this whole season.
Okay.
We just see Seth's homophobic rant from like 7 people's perspectives, because it's like this is the climactic moment of the apocalypse. And then just and then do like a rewind, and everyone's moving backwards in time, and then we go, and then we get it from Tommy's wife's perspective, her lead up to this moment.
Oh man, yeah. We get a perspective of a clicker that was just like walking by and he hears the homophobia and it's like, oh, I'm leaving because I don't want to have anything to do with this fucking homophobes here in Jackson. Man. Well, it's showing you that, we're seeing this from a different perspective and...
Oh boy, have we. Yeah. I feel like I've seen this scene 10 times already.
And then we get our main scene, the one we've been leading up to for the entire season, which is the conversation on the porch. And here Joel confesses everything. And the placement of this conversation is weird to me, and I'll try to explain why. And it's because in the game, Ellie discovers the truth about the Fireflies earlier. And that's why she's mad at Joel at the beginning of the game. We explore that conversation they have here on the porch in a separate flashback that is kind of like similar to the one we've seen here with the science museum stuff. In the show, we see that she's mad at him because of the Eugene stuff. And of course, because she also knows that Joel was hiding something from her. But, it all stems from the Eugene incident, let's call it, that happened, I think, a year before this flashback, with this moment in the story. And it's weird that with the relationship being so fucked between them for like an entire year, Joel didn't kind of like spill the beans about Salt Lake City before. In the game, Ellie knows everything for a long time, and she hates Joel for making that decision for her to save her and doom everyone else. Stuff that she tells him here. And this conversation on the porch that they have in the game is kind of like an opportunity for them to talk things through after a long time of both of them mulling it over, I guess. And Ellie tells him, after having thought again about all of this for a very long time, she tells him, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you, but I'd like to try. It's a good little moment in the story if you think about it, because it hits hard, especially knowing she'll never get a chance to do it, to work through all this with him, right? But here in the show, they splice these two conversations, the one they had years before and the one they have on the porch. They splice them together. So before they were years apart, and now they are seconds apart. We go from this, you killed everyone in the hospital because you're a selfish asshole who couldn't bear the thought of letting me go for the greater good. And from that, we go to, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you, but I'd like to try. And I get what they were doing. They moved things around and crafted one big flashback episode instead of having a million flashbacks throughout, like in a game. Which makes sense, they have just one big flashback. But in bringing these two moments so close together, I feel they rob them of most of their impact. And it's something that the show does a lot. And it just doesn't make any sense that she learns this and then she immediately is like, oh, I would like to try to forgive you.
Yeah, it's inconsistencies with character and the writing constantly throughout. And I feel like this is something that's very prevalent within Ellie. If take her conversations with Jesse in the last episodes, it's all over the fucking place. At times she trusts him and cares for him and wants to do stuff for him, and then at other times she's saying he's literally the most selfish person and he's a faker and he pretends to be good for the community. It's all over the shop, and it just makes her seem like that she has literally no clue about the words that come out of her mouth, and she's just acting on like white hot rage, and she's just impulsive as fuck with the things that she says. It doesn't work in these big moments. Yeah, I thought, again, Pedro's acting's good when he's telling her what happened. He's acting circles around everybody else in this show. But I tell you what, then, I'm sure you've probably seen, I guess Neil Druckmann did some interviews about these recent episodes, and he confirmed, oh yeah, the cure was 100% had potential to work. It was going to be a surefire way to save the world.
It's a lie.
That's a complete retcon, isn't it?
I mean, I remember finding like stuff in the game that hints at it not being the case. Like they were not sure that
they had failed test subjects before, hadn't they?
I don't remember if they had test subjects because Ellie was kind of like a unique occurrence. When you kind of like explore the hospital in the last sequence of the first game, you can find notes from like the doctors saying, that they're not sure that removing the fungus from her brain will lead to a cure. I get what Druckmann is saying, if the cure was always on the table, if it was possible to create a vaccine or an antidote or something, then it becomes more of like...
Oh yeah, it becomes more of a sacrifice that he's making for Ellie. But it was a sacrifice was a massive sacrifice anyway. Just the potential that a cure could have been made, and it doesn't really matter because if you're looking at it logistically, you would never be able to mass produce that vaccine with how fucked the world is anyway. And where in the world is there a working laboratory where you could start creating a vaccine? It's probably very few and far between. So it would only ever have saved the people in that small area anyway. But it's still a big sacrifice. It made its point when it was ambiguous, and now it's not ambiguous. It seems silly.
Yeah. And the dilemma was never about, oh, wait, if he could have made a cure, then Joel is wrong now. No, the dilemma was always about what are you willing to sacrifice? And also the world around you tries to murder you multiple times. The people around you are fucking horrible. The Last of Us are just awful people, cannibals, pedophiles, monsters. And yes, there's some humanity there and there's some good in it. And that's why you need to fight for the good that's there. And Ellie, to Joel, was that good. It was that thing that he was willing to fight and kill for. And it exemplified in the perfect ending of the first game. And you don't need this extra kind of like, oh, the creator actually thinks that. Honestly, I do not care what Druckmann thinks. And I think there's plenty hints to the contrary in the game and in the expanded lore. He's entitled to his opinion and I'm entitled to mine. I don't think this knowledge adds anything to what the actual story of the first game is about. So
it did make me laugh a little bit when he's got his like sad puppy face and she's like, would the cure have worked? And he just nods his head. She's like,
yes,
yeah, of course it would have been. I had the trucks in the back, the lab in Washington. We were gonna mass produce it and save the world, Ellie, and I stopped it. It's like, oh my god, this is so dumb.
It's sad to think that this is the last we'll ever get of Joel. I mean, unless they do more flashbacks, but having already done the big one, I don't think there's much of a point in going back to the character. So, I think you said you're not going to watch the third season, and I think a lot of people will not watch it because we're not going to see Joel again whenever see this character again. But yeah, so this episode ends after this with this nice little flashback. The episode goes back to the present with a bit of a pointless scene showing Ellie going back to the theater after she has killed Nora. And we know that the theater is where shit is going to go down in the last episode, so we should move on to that. Episode 7. Just want to start with this because this was very, very funny. As I mentioned, I was watching the show with my girlfriend, and at the beginning of episode 7, when Ellie goes back into the theater at the beginning and she goes to check on Dina, she goes to her and they share this little moment and a smile, and my girlfriend said, "Daddy's home."
Yeah.
And I thought that was
this good.
Actually, scrap that. I said that. I am the one who said that.
This is the show now, Tommy. It's a fucking joke.
It's a meme.
Yeah. My mate who I was watching it with, I can't remember in what moment. I think spoilers ahead of the episode, but when she kills the pregnant lady,
Mel.
I think my mate might have said, "Oh no, she's not gonna be the dad." It's it's all become a massive fucking joke.
Oh well, what can you do? Oh man, some of the lines in this. Can we just start with that? Like
I said, I think this is for me the worst episode of The Last of Us. It's so poorly written. It's structured. It's a complete mess. It's all over the place. There's I don't know whether you've ever seen Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Of course, love them.
Yeah, they do. They did this talk at like a university. I think they went back to their university in Colorado. Yes, it's the structure, how to structure a screenplay or a story, and it's nothing should ever be this happens and then this happens and then this happens. It should always be this happens, therefore this happens, or this happens because this happens. It should always be connective tissue between scenes.
Of course.
This show is a perfect example of just this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It's like it's all just jumbled together, and like the Isaac and WLF scenes are perfect examples of that. A season of a TV series should have a closure for its main characters in the last season, and you tease a further story that's going to be told in the next season. This is just it should have been 20 episodes long this season.
Oh, please no.
God, thank God it's not, but they cannot tell the story with the people who are writing it in the way that they're doing it.
And actually, this same story expanded upon greatly would have probably been so much better, but the way we just get these basically highlights of what the story is, it becomes a jumbled mess, as you said. And they keep just repeating stuff. Now we get this scene, Ellie, as I said, goes back to the theater and goes to check on Dina, who was shot in the previous, 2 episodes ago. And she confesses everything about Joel. He killed everyone in the hospital. He shot her father in the head. And you said like this, you said this so many times already. Abby told us in the first episode, and then she repeated it to Joel in the second one, and then we keep hearing this. It's like they don't trust us to remember, and I know it's insane to say, but the game was more subtle in this, and I don't know, man. It's just weird, like the character decisions and reactions here just feel off. Dina changes her whole demeanor when she learns this thing about Joel. Like Ellie confesses the truth, and you can see that she's disappointed and mad. And to a point, I'm saying, okay, it's understandable. This extra context that you're giving her does change things a bit. But what did you think? That Abby killed Joel for no reason at all? Like they just rocked up to Jackson, golf club in hand, because they wanted to torture a random old man. Dina should have known that there was a reason why Joel was being tortured and killed. So why is this changing her mind on what's happening? I don't know.
I mean, it again just highlights the problems with their motivations for being there. If it's so fickle, you're willing to risk it all for it. It's just so melodramatic.
Yeah, it's bad. And also, did they hear me compliment the fact that there were a lot more infected scenes this season? Because since I said it, they just stopped. They literally stopped having infected on the show like 3 episodes ago.
I know, it's ridiculous. And they're, like in this episode, we have Ellie and Jesse. They go off to find out who the sniper was that the WLF have radioed about. And they're like, Dina, I know you're injured and you can't look after yourself, but just chuck a sofa in front of the door. You'll be all right. We'll leave you here. But as long as there's a chair in front of the door, I don't think anything will get you. You'll be safe.
Yeah, man. Also, this episode, I was thinking, we've made a lot of jokes throughout our reviews about Ellie killing dogs in the game and how they would probably not do that in the show. And we were right. They had a little scene 2 episodes ago where she almost had to kill this dog, but then she didn't. And when she gets to the aquarium here, I think this is where she kills the dog, like the canon dog killing moment. It's one of the dogs that the main characters have. So, I mean, it's a good choice. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to see real dogs being murdered on screen. But generally,
kill that dog.
They really softened Ellie, right? And they softened Joel in season 1 as well. We talked about that, and I thought that was an appropriate choice. It made sense in the context of the show to make Joel a little less of a murdering psychopath.
Yeah.
So that the moments of violence would really stick out, like when he tortures the guy to get information on where Ellie is, or when he kills everyone at the end. It makes sense to show it that way. But like, you get these glimpses of brutality, and you understand he has done horrible things to survive, things that we don't necessarily need to see to understand his character. But in Ellie's case, it's different, because this season Ellie is a young woman who has done some heinous stuff in the past. She has killed mostly out of self-defense and hasn't really gone down the brutal murderer path just yet. So when the story is literally about Ellie's quest for fucking revenge and how this revenge consumes her and puts her and everyone else in danger, you kinda need to show that a bit. And I'm not saying kill the dog. dog, but maybe kill the dog. Like, remember how I said they cut a character out from Abby's group? Like,
Yeah,
Abby's
yeah.
group had originally one more member there in the scene where they killed Joel. And I remember now because I did a little bit of research and I rewatched some of the scenes from the game. And I remember there was a guy who's the first person Ellie finds in Seattle on day one when she's looking for Abby. And she fucking slits his throat. It's very brutal. It's a shocking scene. And here we don't get that vengeful version of Ellie until the Nora scene, which is on day 2. Seattle day 2. Again, everything feels so convenient. She kills very few people to get there. And outside of Nora, she's never vicious about it. She's always doing it out of self-defense, you know? So
Yeah. And then also, but even with the Nora murder, you know, now in this episode, we get her reconvening back with Dina and Jesse, and she didn't really murder her, and she's really affected by it. She's sitting there and she's emptied by it. So it's like, this is really affecting her, and we can't, the writers want to have it both ways. They want to make her this murdering savage, but also that she's really sympathetic, and you know, this is really hurting her, and actually she doesn't want to do these things, but she has to. It's they can't have it both ways.
Yeah, she kills one guard. I said it was a nice sequence when they are stealthing around in that place and some wolves come there and they kill like one guard, and then she doesn't have to kill anyone in the hospital. Like, to get to Nora, she just finds her. And then with Owen and Mel, it's like self-defense.
Exactly.
And, to be fair to the show,
they change that in the sense that I think I watched the scene in the game, and she stabs, Mel's trying to stab her and she stabs her in the neck, and it's still self-defense, but it's more brutal and it's more, I don't know, and we don't see her quite as honestly, if you rewatch the scene where Ellie shoots Owen, and she looks terrified as she's holding that gun, her performance, I mean, you know, it startles her and she fires the gun, and she looks like someone who is incapable of doing the things she's doing. But they show us loads of scenes at the beginning of this season of her training and how much of a great assassin she's becoming.
Important that was.
She's still useless. It's all pointless. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, to be fair, I actually kind of like the Mel scene, like the pregnant lady, how they drew more attention to the baby and how Mel wants to save it. I thought it was well done.
That was, it was, I suppose it's less cheap than just doing the pulling the jumper open and seeing the pregnant belly.
That was bad in the game too. But the problem, I think, is that it's all being done to soften Ellie. And she's profoundly unlikable here. She makes stupid, selfish decisions throughout the show, but she lacks that brutality and anger that somewhat can justify some of the dumb things that she does. So the character is botched, is what I'm saying. In my opinion, I have defended this version of the character as long as I could. I do not like her anymore, I do not believe in her anymore, and I do not trust the showrunners to do justice to a character that was already kind of ruined in the second game anyway. So yeah, generally this seals the deal for me. Like, they do not know how to do Ellie, and I don't think the actor is right for the part. Nothing against her, because she was great in season 1, but she just looks like Ellie from season 1. She hasn't aged up enough to sell this character in a believable way, so they decide to soften her, but this makes the whole revenge quest less believable, and it's just like a dog biting his own tail, or like what's a snake,
and
any animal.
And just, you know, her performance, the range of her performance is very narrow. Just rolling back to the previous scene where Adina is tending to the wounds on Ellie's back, I saw somebody do like a scene by scene comparison, and the emotion on Ellie's face in the game in that scene is
that's insane to say.
I know, it's unreal, honestly. And it's, you know, you can tell her eyes, there's so much going on there. Whereas Bella Ramsey just has this blank expression on her face. And it just feels like she's not doing anything. There's nothing going on in her thoughts or anything. It's so bad. I saw a little clip of her talking about what's her old girlfriend that she has to kill in the first season.
Riley.
She talked about acting with that actress who plays Riley and how incredible she was at just being able to turn on the tears and emote so easily. And Bella Ramsey's saying, I really struggle to cry on camera, and she was saying how she really struggles to do these certain things, and it shows. The only times I'm liking her performance is maybe when she's more like jokey and quippy. Nothing else works for me, honestly.
I mean, also when she's a bit jaded and foul-mouthed and she makes up jokes. Like, yeah, I mean, there's good in this performance. I don't want to dismiss it entirely. I'm just saying she doesn't work for this specific version of Ellie in this scenario.
Yeah, it's
well, like, I'm judging the performance for what it is. I did not buy what I'm looking at, like, right now for this show, for this character in this season.
And then the next scene, I don't know, it might be the worst scene of the show.
With Jesse,
when they're hiding behind the dumpster, and we see a bunch of WLF soldiers. They're chasing down one of the Seraphites, and they get one of the kid. He's like a little kid Seraphite, and they get him cornered. There's like 6 of them or something ridiculous. And Ellie's about to run out and go attack them head on with no plan or anything, just because she wants to save the little kid. And I feel like, again, the show is on her side. The show is suggesting that that's an altruistic and good thing to do. But no, it's stupid. You'll just die.
And Jesse, that piece of shit Jesse, who
just
risked his life to come and get you, is a piece of shit because he doesn't want to help some stranger cult guy who probably would have killed you on the spot if it was in a different situation. So, yeah.
It perfectly summarizes the problems with Ellie's character, this scene. They want her to be this cool badass, but actually she's an impulsive child that makes dumb decisions and and she was about to put Jesse in danger and potentially kill Jesse too.
And Jesse calls her out on it, and I think the show is kind of telling you that Jesse is right in this opinion, because Jesse is supposed to be kind of like the moral compass here, especially.
Again, I agree, at least that, when they're having the conversation up on that view tower point, and Jesse says, you're selfish and you're stupid. And it's finally somebody is telling her how it is and giving her a dressing down.
Go, Jesse, and then the show fucking kills him for that.
Well, not only does the show kill him, but they also then, again, classic, Ellie gets the last word, and she says, well, actually, you're fake. You think you say you care about the community, but it's only the people in your community you care about. Like, you let that kid die, who was the Seraphite kid. And again, I just feel like she always needs to get the last word, and it's like her word is the truth. The show's trying to raise like, oh yeah, she has a point. No, she doesn't have a fucking point. They'd both be dead now if they try and save that kid. It's dumb.
Not to defend the show, I'm not defending the show anymore, but I don't think that's the case. I think the show, especially in this episode, is trying to portray Ellie as being very immature and flawed and driven solely by rage and vengeance, which is something that is not believable, and that is a problem that we've discussed. But I don't think they are trying to imply that she's right in having these opinions and wants. And actually, Jesse here is the lawful good kind of character, and that's why he ends up the way he does, because he's right.
That's why he gets the most unceremonious death of the whole show, probably, for in terms of main characters. The guy just gets fucking literally one, half a second shot in the head, and then he's gone.
Yeah. And that's how death works in the real world, and it was brutal and unexpected in the game too. And here,
look at Eugene's death. Eugene gets to look over a beautiful vista and have this fucking 10-minute sequence. It's fucking ridiculous, man. And Jesse, arguably, like you said, the most righteous character of the show, and maybe that's the point. That the world is so...
No, that is the point, and it's so obvious that it hurts. That's the point. That that the good people are the ones.
The best guy just dies like a piece of trash. It's like, what a great show that is.
Jesse in the game was way less developed. I think I like this version of Jesse more. So I think the show works in making you feel this whiplash, right? When he dies. I mean, I wish I could have seen this scene without having the context of the game.
Yeah, I knew it was going to die.
I mean, the show is, again, not very subtle in its storytelling. They have I think 3 separate lines.
Oh man.
At least 2 separate lines where it's like, oh, I'm a father now, so I cannot die. I better not die here because my death will be on you, Ellie. If I die, you're gonna be the one who carries this guilt with her forever. So
He's literally like the detective who's one day from retirement. He's like, yep, oh, am I checking in my last day today, boss? But, I'll just go on patrol one more time.
yeah, he's like the young soldier in Vietnam who's looking at the picture of his beautiful wife waiting for him at home. He's like this busty blonde lady, and he's like, I can't wait to go back home and hug her. And everyone is like, oh man, you're so dead now. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Oh, God.
And I am sad. But this is just one of the problems, I think. One of the many problems. The other problem is the lack of violence felt this season. Because they have a few key scenes that, we've said, we've been fair to the show. We said that some of the scenes, the action sequences were well done. But overall, I think you come away from this show with the wrong impressions of what the story is about, because so much of that connective tissue of people getting to places and having to work their way through hordes of infected or raiders or wolves or scars is all gone. And I understand that in a TV show format you can't just break into an action sequence whenever you want, but it just feels so disjointed. And here comes my rant. Because the scene on the boat.
Oh my god, yeah, I wrote on my notes, I wrote, Ellie's sailing adventure is so dumb. I've got so many problems with it.
I am so glad to hear that, because this scene made me angry, man. I never, this show makes me angry, man, because okay, so we have the scene where she realizes, oh my god, the whale, Abby's at the aquarium, I need to get there, and Jesse's like, wait.
That was ridiculous as well. I thought, and yeah. I assume she doesn't actually, she says she sees Abby like through the binoculars, but she doesn't actually see her, right?
She just realizes that Nora was talking about the aquarium when she was torturing her. And Jesse's like, wait, but we need to find Tommy. And she's like, oh, Tommy will be fine. I need to go get my revenge now.
She's such a bitch.
First of all, horrible. But I guess, it's just the fault of the show that it didn't sell me on this idea of Ellie being driven by revenge, that I do not believe this scene at all. It doesn't work for me in any way. Jesse goes after Tommy, and we'll get... I'll get, because you will not watch season 3, but I'll get his side of the story in season 3 when he goes find Tommy on the sniper.
No, you'll get a flashback sequence of his viewpoint of the New Year's Eve dance where Seth called Ellie a lesbian.
That's gonna be the first scene in season 3, because they know how important it is. So Ellie gets to the pier, and there's a very bad storm, there's wind and big motherfucking waves, and there's a bunch of wolves soldiers, like WLF soldiers there. Wouldn't it have been fun to craft a little stealth sequence where she needs to move past the guards, maybe kill a couple guards, and use the storm and the shadows to hide? Instead, she sees the wolves, and then they all immediately leave the pier so they can hop on a boat and go on their fucking merry way. It's just so lazy and convenient, man. It loses all credibility. Why would you even show them being there? I mean, I know why you're showing it, because you want to show that they're going to the island with the scars, so they have the big fight. But it's just, didn't you think that was just the worst fucking moment? The worst fucking moment is yet to come, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't.
It was it's just all over the place. She decides to get on the boat, randomly falls on that island, and it's so much is going on. It's hard to work out what's happening. Obviously we know because of the previous scene with Isaac, he's looking for Abby and her crew. Yeah. So we know that he's sent out his men to go get them, but then
and we know that Abby is the heir to the throne, apparently, for some fucking reason.
We didn't go into that scene, but that scene was so dumb, so cringe, when he's like, but she's the best of us, and the other lady's like, well, she's a pretty damn good soldier, but is she what do you love her or something? Do you fancy her?
I mean, Joel immediately recognized her to be military when they captured him in the second episode, so I guess that's true.
Am I blind, or do my eyes not work or something? Am I seeing something that these people are not seeing? That is classic terrible writing 101. Tell and don't show. Isaac tells us how great Abby is, but we have nothing. We have no scene to put our hat on to be like, yeah, Abby's a good character.
Yeah, like the general misuse of the great Joffrey Wright in this season. But I wanna talk about this fucking boat. You mentioned Ellie ending up on this island. Like, this is insanely stupid, in my opinion.
Don't forget the big wave that takes her out, and then she's wearing her rucksack and her coat.
Okay. She gets caught in this big wave, so I like, oh no, is Ellie going to die? You know, she couldn't swim in the first season. I'm pretty sure they never established she learned how to swim in between seasons, but well, that's neither here or there. She's fine. She washes up on a shore 3 meters away from her fucking boat. The Scars find her, and they're about to do their little ritual to her, you know, when they spill your guts on the floor. And then, oh no, wait, we've been attacked. Leave her. So Ellie can go back to the boat and proceed with her quest like nothing fucking happened.
What was the point in that scene?
Okay, so I know what the point of this scene is, but like, I hate this scene even more because of that.
Is it set up?
It's
set up for the third season stuff that's going to happen.
It makes no sense, right? Exactly. Because the level of contrivance you need to create so that she ends up on this island that's so far away from the shore and in a completely different direction to where a fucking wave would be headed, by the way, because waves are not headed from the shore towards the island on the other side. So, I mean, like, how does this work? And the fact that she ends up literally next to her boat so she can easily escape after this little sequence, I was so confused because up until this point I had a pretty clear idea of how the episode was gonna go, thanks to, you know, my superior knowledge of the source material. They were following the game fairly closely. You know, they simplify stuff, they remove action set pieces, of course, so many moments of action are just removed, but this is another complaint entirely. They shorten everything, but they are following the events of the game fairly closely. So when she washes up on Scar Island, I was for a second like, oh wait, this is new. Maybe they're changing stuff around. How is she gonna get out of this situation? Is she gonna stay on the island? Because people who play the game know that Abby is on the island at this point in time. So I was curious, and I felt like maybe they were going all of a sudden, you know, silly me. Sorry to think this. They haven't changed stuff so far, but they're gonna change this at the very end. And I was really engaged. I was like, okay, this is a stupid scene, but where is it headed? And the answer is it's headed fucking nowhere. It's literally just a scene that's there to tell us, hey, next year or in 3 years when we release the third season, this will make sense because we'll see the attack on Scar Island and the fight between the Scars and the Wolves, and this is a little bit of a teaser for it. And this is where like I really, really get mad because it's so pointless, right? Who's this for? As you said, with a little context from the game, you were really confused. With a lot of context from the game, I was just angry. Fans of the game know that this stuff is coming and they do not need a reminder, and people who have not played the game will just be confused and frustrated and will not remember this scene when the third season comes around. It's such a bad scene, and the show has mostly avoided this kind of stuff, these key jangling moments, so it really sticks out to me as a very stupid and bad decision. And it just stops the momentum, the little momentum we had so far with the idea of Ellie going to the aquarium to kill Abby. It sidetracks everything for this little side quest that doesn't mean anything. If you really want to show the Scars in this last episode, the conflict to come with the wolves, just give us a little extra scene with Isaac, who, by the way, he was in 4 fucking scenes this entire season. He was in the flashback, he was in the torture scene, and we see him twice this last episode, and that's it. And in the last scene, I don't think he even has a fucking line of dialogue. So why don't just show them get to the island instead of having Ellie do a little detour on her way to the aquarium for no reason at all? You just show them get there and be like, oh, we're gonna fuck these Scars up. We're gonna do bad things to them and get ready for a cool action set piece. But no. So this is where the show has just completely lost the plot, in my opinion, and has lost me for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, I assumed maybe it was a setup for something that's going to happen later, but in your like climactic build up of your final moment of season 1, that's not when you do shit like that. And yeah, like I said, you went into it, but all the contrivances that happen here. When she falls in with the wave, me and my friend looked at each other and we were like, oh, well, she's obviously, that should kill her, but she won't die. And I was jokingly said, we're going to see her crawling out with her bag still on and her coat on and shit. And I was like, yep, no, they're literally doing it. They are the meme now.
Oh man. And so many times during this episode I caught myself thinking they really fucking did it. They're doing this. Okay, we've gone through most of what this last episode is about. We have our last few sequences. Ellie gets into the aquarium. She immediately finds Mel and Owen. We describe what happens. She kills them both. She runs away. Well, actually, no. Tommy and Jesse find her, of course. They find her immediately because they have fucking GPS on their backpacks or something. And
I wonder if their sailing adventure was as successful as hers. I wonder if they hit a big wave and had to swim the rest of the way as well.
In the game, it's one of the sequences in the game that I think really works. We know that he was sniping people and Jesse goes to rescue him, right? You don't see this with Ellie because you experienced this during Abby's campaign. And I don't remember where you're going or why you're going there, but at some point there's this sequence where you're hiding from a sniper. And it's the same kind of setup as a scene in the first game where you're also kind of like hiding from a sniper and trying to get where he is so that you can kill him. And you see that scene replicated in some kind of way in the first season of the show. So you have this sequence where you need to hide and find your way through like this debris and like these cars, trying not to get hit by the sniper. And then when you get there, it's Tommy. So it's like this game of perspective and oh wait, who's the evil guy now? Like he's killing people like that guy who you killed in the first game. So it's very obvious, but it's a decent scene, and I think it's gonna be decent when they actually do it in the show too. But I do not care about that now. And especially we're not going to remember this little setup. And this brings me to my biggest criticism, which is something that we've hinted at throughout our reviews. People who know the game will know this, and people who do not know the game will have realized by now what the show is trying to do here. So we've experienced one side of the story. We've experienced Ellie's side, and the show is implying that we are going to get Abby's side of the same story next season, rewinding the clock to Seattle day 1. So they really did what I said in my first review for this series I hoped they would not do. That was splitting the two campaigns, I guess, into two separate seasons. Because I felt that would be such a big mistake to leave us on this big cliffhanger in the theater. I felt like it was not gonna work in TV show form because you get Abby's perspective on the story and it's a separate campaign and you play as Abby for like 10 hours. But this was like a narrative idea, but also a gameplay idea. You're like, okay, so we're gonna split the game into these two large sections. In one, you play as Ellie, and this other one, you play as Abby. They have different gameplay styles. They have different guns. So it's a gameplay decision to have them split the two stories this way. And it works to an extent. I didn't love it. So many people did. So it's fine. It's a matter of taste if you like it or not. When you are telling the same story in TV show format, you are free to move from one perspective to the other, scene by scene, sequence by sequence, episode by episode. You are not bound to show all of Ellie's story and then all of Abby's story afterwards. So this feels like a Druckmann decision. She's like, oh, this was so genius in the game, so we're gonna do it again here. And I don't agree. I think it was a bad decision.
It was also funny how we get the shot of Abby walking out onto that viewpoint, like the little balcony, and like the music starts swelling, and then day 1 Seattle comes on screen as if it's like some epic moment, and it was just such an eye roll for me. It was like, oh, cool. you're going to do the thing that everyone kind of thought you were going to do at the beginning now. And it's like, do you think that's going to get people really invested? Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I can see Abby's perspective now. I can't wait.
One of the worst season finales for a show, for a competent, good show that I've seen in a long time. Having your season finale end on a gunshot, cut to black, we don't know what happens afterwards. That is like some student filmmaking bullshit right there.
And in the game, you can just keep playing, and it's going to be frustrating for a while because you want to go back to that moment and see it resolved, but the game keeps you in Abby's perspective and flashing back to her storyline. But you spend some time with this character and you kind of like forget a little bit about Ellie's storyline and how that was kind of like left on a cliffhanger, and you just get invested into the gameplay and the story that you're experiencing through Abby. But like, there's no... Like, you don't have to wait a year or maybe 2 years for a season of television to tell you what happens. You can just keep playing, and the story is all there for you to enjoy or not enjoy.
It's crazy that they think putting this out as your story and then being like, yeah, then 2 years we'll finish it off. How anybody can look at that and think that's satisfying for any audience is beyond me. Honestly, it's crazy. And then, I'm sure you've probably seen reports that are coming out that Craig Mazin saying, that actually we need 4 seasons to finish off this story. He wants to do this in another 2 seasons. When really, part 1, the most revered story, is maybe that's what you should have done in 2 seasons.
Oh man, yes. Give me 2 seasons of part 1. And then a little cliff notes of what happens in part 2.
And if you think it's unadaptable in 3 seasons of prestige TV, then perhaps you're not the person who should be adapting this piece of work, to be honest. Or
I don't think Craig Mazin is the problem here.
I think
he's proven to be.
Well, I don't think he's doing a good job though. I think if you're going on
he made bad decisions.
Oh, 100%. And this is, like I said, I think this is a bad show now, and there's bad episodes, lots of bad scenes and bad construction, bad structure,
conveniences all over the place.
Yeah, I think everybody's quality has dropped. I think everybody's at fault here.
I've seen something online. I think it was a video titled like HBO's The Last of Us is like a Disney remake, right? And I didn't watch the video because at the time I hadn't seen the latest episodes yet. But the title really resonated with me because I think it hits the nail on the head. Like, the problem with most Disney remakes is that they have the scenes that you like from the original. They sound like the original. They even look like the original, but they miss the heart and they miss the soul. And in changing the story and trying to make it more mature, I guess, in that case, better in the eyes of the ones who are remaking it.
And the message is perverted. What the whole thing is supposed to be about is turned on its head typically, and subverted, or it becomes about something else. I don't know whether you've heard of the controversy around like Lilo and Stitch, the remake of that.
No, but I wanted to see it. It felt like it could be one of the better ones, but like I heard that there's some controversy already.
Oh brother, you're wrong. No, I haven't seen it, but I know I've seen people talking about what happens.
They ruined the relationship between the 2 sisters, which was like the main thing.
And I rewatched the original like 3 days ago because I was like, oh fuck it, I'll put this on. I'm feeling ill. I'm in bed.
It's so good.
Oh, and it's such a good fucking movie, man. The whole Ohana means family in Lilo and Stitch, and it's like the sister is looking after the younger sister, and she's taken on the role of being a mother because the parents died in a car crash. Whereas in this one, we have the older sister tells Lilo, she's like, no. You need to fucking get with reality. You're living in a fantasy world. And she decides to go to college, and she lets Lilo go to foster care at the end of the film.
What?
Yeah.
That is so bad. Oh my god. Do you see, like, maybe they didn't even intend to... Well, I mean, they did intend it with this one, but they either, like, it's rarely subversion for subversion's sake. It's just like they're in changing a few things here and there. or like trying to flesh out a few things because they want to make a longer movie because longer movies are better now for some reason. They bring up all these inconsistencies and mistakes that way. And even in the original film, Lilo and Stitch is such a classic little adventure film with a weird alien and this very sweet relationship between these two sisters. And now they're like, oh, we need to revamp this and redo this for a new age. So we need to say that she needs to study to be worth something and that her sister needs to grow up or whatever. And yeah, it's strange the type of messaging that they choose to implement in these new takes on these classic
And
stories.
maybe that's very telling of like morality today. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe like morals of what people thought was 20 years ago is different to now, and it's like, especially Disney films, they always have that kind of like, it's like a fable, you know, they have a moral of the story, and a lot of the remakes, that moral seems to be perverted, and it's like not actually a good, it doesn't mean a good thing anymore, and it's, you know, it'll either be like anti-family or more about independence, and it's, you know,
Yeah.
things like that.
It's the Lion King remake, right?
I haven't seen it, but
The Lion King remake is the worst thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. I hate this movie with all of my heart. I know it's strange to say, but I really do.
oh, do they make Scar into like a sympathetic villain something, do they?
Yes, they butchered the character of Scar, first of all. It's like, was such a cool villain in the original cartoon. One of the things that they do, because there was this idea of Scar being a very effeminate character, and it's an effeminate character because they want to pit him against Mufasa, who's kind of like this alpha male, huge, burly lion, so the conniving little brother is going to be less powerful. He has to use subterfuge to get on top. That's the idea of contrasting these two characters, but they didn't want people to think, oh, we're not making the lion gay, like we don't want that. So the lion is actually infatuated with Mufasa's wife, and that's why he hates him, because he loves Sarabi. But like, that's one of the things that they do that I think is just stupid. We don't want people to think that we made a bad gay character, so just let's make him in love with this lioness for some reason. Another thing that they do is that they want to develop the hyenas. They make them more prevalent in the story, you know, they have a bigger role, and in doing so, they bring up so many issues in how the Pride Lands function, and they were never there in the Lion King cartoon because it was a very simple cartoon with classic archetypes and the tone of a fable. In this version of The Lion King, the hyenas have basically been ethnically segregated from the rest of the Pride Lands and sent to this dead land, you know, shunned by the largest savannah society for just the color of their skin, basically. And it makes the lion pride look problematic, you know, I dare say a little bit racist. So because you're applying more of a realistic, and I'm making air quotes with my hands here, concepts to a fantasy setting where we have singing animals and, you know, baboon shamans, this becomes a very weird thing. And
yeah.
so I know this is a bit of a tangent. This is a Tommy tangent moment, but you indulge me with the Lilo and Stitch stuff, so it's your fault. Going back to The Last of Us, the subject of our review, they do something similar here, because it hits the same story beats as the original, but in changing crucial context around those bits, removing that context entirely in some cases, these moments hit differently, or they do not hit at all. And this is insane to say, because the original part 2 of the story is not even like amazing or universally liked. There's ways to improve it, change it in a good way. But the original was way more competent in telling this same story because it was the original iteration of that story. And even if there's some questionable decisions in there, Druckmann and the team had a clear end goal there. They had clear themes that they wanted to tackle, and they tried to craft a story that led to that ending in a more or less believable way. So it's like you're missing the forest for the trees. You're looking at all the trees that need to be there to make it a forest, but you don't realize that maybe you're in the wrong forest.
Yeah.
I don't know if this analogy makes sense, but you know what I mean. It has all the elements of The Last of Us, but then you changed Joel's character, you've changed Ellie's character, you've changed how things happen and how she goes on this revenge quest. You've changed what she does on this revenge quest. So when you get to the end point, you're like, I do not even feel what I think I'm supposed to feel because everything is bad. So
yeah, it feels like this has been made 10, 20 years later, and it's a corporate horrible remake of the property you loved before. It has it's a good comparison, to be honest.
yeah, it just lacks that depth. And the game had similar problems, and people were mad at the game for the same reasons. So it's no surprise that people who only watch the show are reacting this way, because the show is making the same mistakes, and even brand new ones that we were even imagining they could do, by making Dina a weird character, by changing Tommy, by just removing any believability from Ellie's character, and not focusing on the interesting stuff that the game glossed over, like fucking Isaac, who's in 4 scenes, and I will never get over that. Like, why would you get Jeffrey Wright to be in the show to be a nothing character that no one cares about? Like, why have that other lady in 2 scenes? We don't even know her name, basically. Maybe they said it once, and we are supposed to remember that?
We never saw her again, either. She had that one scene. What? Oh, no, 2 scenes, sorry. What is the point?
She's probably dead, because she is like, when they have this scene before they leave for Scar Island, he's like, oh, Abby was supposed to be the next in line to be a leader. So I'm guessing this lady was killed off screen, and we'll see her death in the next season from Abby's perspective, or in Abby's story, because it seems like she's not there in this episode. So I guess that's the case, but like, I don't care. I've seen her twice. I don't remember her name, and I was like, why is not Isaac doing what she's doing? So it's, oh man, there's so much wrong with this. I could go on, but I guess we've reached our limits here.
Yeah, I mean, I could. There's loads of little like nitpicks. I'm struggling to find anything, especially of the last final episode, anything good to say about it other than the occasional, oh, this performance was good. Yeah, I'm running.
Catherine Dever in the theater, when she gets there and she kills Jesse and then threatening Tommy and Ellie with a gun. She did an excellent job portraying that character, and like, as controversial as this scene is in the game too, it's not an easy moment to portray. You know, she's sad and angry, and
yeah, she's a good actor. It's well done to Catelyn Dever, but unfortunately, you're in a terrible show.
Yeah, I hope people are nice to you.
Well, so go on then. We'll give a final score for Last of Us Season 2. Do you remember? I think I gave Season 1 an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. Do you want me to like grade the 2 episodes and then the show as a whole?
It's up to you. I suppose now we've seen it in its entirety. I suppose just give us a final overall score.
The flashback episode has its own little Joel and Ellie kind of storyline that we follow. Like, it was well done as an episode of television. It felt like appropriate way of telling that story in TV format. The performances were on point. I liked that sequence with Eugene, as I said. So, you know, that would be a good episode that I would grade a higher grade than everything else. But overall, I think it's barely a 5, maybe a 4.5. Like, just because this last episode was just like so incompetently made, in my opinion. Like, from a narrative standpoint.
No,
because, you know, we said
good on you, Tommy. I thought you were going to be too generous to this.
No, I am mad at this show.
Yeah, and now we have seen it in its entirety, and you know, a season of television should have a beginning, middle, and end. It should be a cohesive story still, and you can sprinkle in elements that are going to go into further seasons. This is just terrible in terms of how much story we get, where we've been left. You know, the massive now gap you're going to have to wait to get any closure on that story. It's I'd give it 4.5 out of 10. I think it's below average.
First time we agree on a grade, I think. So, you know, well done, The Last of Us. You united us in the worst way possible.
I'll give it to you, Druckmann and Craig Mazin. You did give me some fucking good laughs over the few weeks. You know, I'm gonna be a dad. Will forever be a great TV moment.
Oh man, yes, that is home indeed. Well, I mean, it has been fun to chat about this show at least, so that there's that. To pick at the things that are wrong with it, as well as complimenting the show when it deserved it, which unfortunately was rarely this season. I will probably watch the third season just out of curiosity on what happens and how they're gonna plan on tell the second half of the game. But yeah, I'm not excited for it anymore. I was really excited for the second season before it came out, so this killed it, and that should tell you everything you need to know about the success of this season. I mean, and at least for me, I guess there's some people out there who are loving this, and to them I say more power to you.
Like I said at the beginning, over 50% loss in viewership, so I think the sentiment is more with us than more with people who are loving the show, to be honest. And yeah, we'll see how low those numbers get when season 3 rolls around, because I think it's gonna be a tough sell. But yeah, I hope it's been cathartic for anybody who feels the same way and who's been listening.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening to our ramblings. This has been a journey. It's been a 7-week journey for us, and the first show that we really tackled from the beginning to the end, week by week, reviewing each episode. So it was a really fun and even formative experience, I'd say. So yeah, it was really, really good. Well, not the show, just chatting with my friend Tyler here, and to you all in the comments. So, again, thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with all our video content. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff. There's the new Mission Impossible movie that I want to talk about. We're gonna talk about the best action movies of all time. There's a bunch of new releases that we are excited to chat about, and old releases as well. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and welcome to the cult.
Yeah, nice one, guys.